At the birthday celebration of the woman who had raised her for more than 40 years, Laura Bennett received DNA test results that left the entire room speechless. The woman she had called mom for half her life was not her biological mother. That afternoon, the Bennett family home was filled with laughter and warm light. On the table sat a large birthday cake, old family photographs, bouquets of white flowers, and a sign celebrating Margaret Bennett's 70th birthday. Laura stood beside her mother, gently adjusting the shawl resting on her shoulders. To everyone around her, Laura was the most devoted daughter in the family. She had cared for her mother after her father passed away, managed the family's small store, and always stepped in to keep the peace whenever her brother Robert caused trouble. But very few people knew that the gift Laura had prepared for her mother that day would shatter the fragile peace the family had lived under for decades. It was a family history album accompanied by the results of a DNA test she had taken out of simple curiosity, after a doctor noticed that her blood type did not match the information recorded in her birth records. At first, Laura assumed it was nothing more than a paperwork error, until the envelope was opened. As Laura read the very first line, her hands began to tremble. No maternal biological relationship detected. The room fell silent. Margaret looked at her daughter, her aging eyes suddenly empty, as though she had just lost everything that mattered. Robert let out an awkward laugh. There has to be a mistake. These tests are wrong all the time. But Laura did not look at him. She looked only at her mother. Did you know about this? Margaret pressed her lips together. A single tear rolled down her wrinkled cheek. The answer was hidden inside that silence. 42 years earlier, Margaret had given birth to a baby girl at St. Mary Hospital during a violent rainstorm. That same night, another woman named Helen Carter also gave birth to a daughter. The hospital was overcrowded. The power system malfunctioned. Records were written by hand. The two newborns were taken for medical examinations at the same time. The next morning, each mother carried a baby home. No one suspected anything. No one checked. No one knew that two families had spent decades raising the wrong children. Margaret first noticed something unusual when Laura was 8 years old. A doctor told her that Laura's blood type could not possibly belong to a biological child of Margaret and her husband. Margaret returned to the hospital seeking answers, but the records from that year had disappeared. She was afraid. Afraid of losing Laura. Afraid of destroying her family. Afraid that one day someone would come and take her daughter away. So she chose silence. Several weeks later, Laura found Helen Carter. Helen lived in a small coastal town. She had raised a daughter named Rebecca, a successful woman who was distant, reserved, and emotionally cold. The moment Laura walked into the tea shop where they had agreed to meet, Helen burst into tears. No additional tests were needed. No explanations were necessary. Laura looked exactly like Helen had looked when she was young. Helen reached out and touched Laura's cheek, then quickly pulled her hand back, as though she feared she had no right. "I've dreamed about you so many times," she whispered, her voice breaking. Laura stood frozen. Her heart was being pulled in two directions. On one side stood the woman who had given birth to her. On the other stood the woman who had stayed awake through long nights beside hospital beds, taught her how to cook, and held her every time she failed. She did not know whether to cry for what she had lost or feel grateful that she still had the chance to uncover the truth. When the two families finally met for the first time, the atmosphere was so heavy it was difficult to breathe. Rebecca, the daughter Margaret had actually given birth to, arrived wearing an elegant business suit. She looked at Margaret with unfamiliar eyes. "So you're my biological mother." Margaret rose to her feet, trembling. She wanted to embrace Rebecca, but Rebecca stepped back. "You knew for years and never looked for me." The words pierced straight through Margaret's heart. Robert immediately interrupted. He had little interest in anyone's pain. What concerned him was the Bennett family inheritance. He feared Rebecca would return and claim her share. He loudly declared that Laura was no longer a member of the Bennett family, and that the store, the house, and everything else should belong to the true bloodline. The room instantly froze. Laura looked at her brother. The man whose debts she had helped repay. The man who had accepted her money to keep the family home from being lost. Then she placed a thick folder on the table. Inside were documents proving that for the past 15 years, Laura had personally paid every loan, every property tax bill, and every expense related to Margaret's care. She was not Margaret's biological daughter according to DNA. But she was the only one who had stayed. The truth left the entire family speechless. Rebecca read every page carefully. The cold expression on her face slowly began to change. She turned toward Robert. "You call her an outsider, yet she's the reason this family still has a home." Robert had no response. Helen began to cry. Margaret covered her face and sobbed as she finally spoke the apology she had carried inside her heart for more than 30 years. "I was wrong. I was so afraid of losing you that I ended up hurting everyone." Laura did not answer immediately. She looked at the woman who had raised her. Then she looked at the woman who had given birth to her. Finally, she spoke. "I can't erase this pain. But I also can't deny the love that raised me." The room fell silent. It was not complete forgiveness. But it was the first door opening toward healing. A random DNA test uncovered a secret that had been buried for decades. 2 families were shattered by the truth. Yet that same truth forced them to confront what mattered most. Family is not built by blood alone. Family is also built through sleepless nights, quiet sacrifices, and hands that refuse to let go when life becomes cruel. Laura lost one version of the truth, but she found 2 mothers, 2 different heartbreaks, and a chance to begin again. If you believe that family is more than biology, leave a comment below. Do you think Laura should forgive Margaret? And don't forget to subscribe for more family drama Reddit stories, emotional Reddit family drama story content, and powerful dramatic storytelling that makes us reflect on family, love, and the truth.